Do you remember like ages ago when like I was talking on the blog about how like Tom Zank's official website kept like retweeting things about Tom Zank all the time?
I kind of
Yeah,
remember
like
that,
you said,
yeah.
it just auto seeks anything that's Tom Zank related. Yeah.
Well, apparently it isn't auto-seeking. It's literally somebody, some individual is running it, and it's still going. And they
Awesome.
keep linking back to us because we said one nice thing about him once.
That's fantastic, honestly.
Yes, we're still getting hits from the Tom Zank website.
That's
Yeah.
just so. Who's out there talking about Tom Zank?
I don't know, man. We just posted something February 29th. I mean, it's still going. We're still getting hits from the site. So not only is somebody writing it, somebody's reading it. Welcome, cats and kittens, to Cewshcast 5000. Actually, now it's just Cewshcast. Fuck, we subtracted the 5000. Your only home, among many, many others, for wrestling, talking incessantly about topics that you've already heard people talking about all week until this point. Welcome again to the show. We have, as always, our bestest best friends over here. We have the Psycho Soldier, Julius.
Yo, yo, everybody.
And we have our hero, Artie.
Hello.
Yes, and as always, we are here to give the wrestling talk. We got a bunch of topics, some pretty gigantic ones, and some truly, truly sad ones. And we're going to get to our questions and all that good stuff later on. But first, as usual, WWE will dominate our conversation. We're going to have to jump right into, somehow they've inserted like another pseudo pay-per-view into the lineup before WrestleMania. I think this originally kind of started as like a half-assed house show, and now it's becoming like just like a 4-match pay-per-view in the middle of March. It's WWE Roadblock. We already have announced for it Triple H versus Dean Ambrose for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, the NXT Tag Team Championship, so the Revival versus Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy, and Brock Lesnar versus Bray Wyatt. As well as, I guess, Roman Reigns versus Sheamus. I couldn't find that on Wikipedia, but I've heard that it is on here. Guys, what the hell do you think about this random shit that's starting up? And do you think the fact that they've seemed to have put a lot of importance on it really quickly and out of nowhere means something about what's going to happen on it?
I think what happened was this was going to be an interesting pay-per-view that was going to use one of Brock's dates, and they decided, like, what the hell? Let's throw the bitch up on the network and do another one of these random network specials that we've been doing all year.
And they have been successful, too. I mean,
and
they've been doing
they
well.
have been. And I think it's so cool that people were complaining last year, oh, we never get pay-per-views from any other country. Well, now you've had a special from Japan, one from England, and now you're getting one from Canada. I think the next step is one from Mexico. And, I mean, maybe we'll even go to some crazy foreign country like, I don't know, Ohio or something next. You never know.
Yes, please.
But no, I think it's cool. I don't think it's going to change anything to do with WrestleMania. But to me, the biggest thing is the fact that there's an NXT tag title match on here. I mean, that's cool. I love that, like, they're using NXT matches to, like, fill in on these specials. Where, you know, at the Beast in the East, we had the NXT title match between Finn Balor and some Kevin Owens. And this one's the random NXT tag title match. Even that one, I don't see much happening because, you know, the NXT tag titles are back on the line 2 weeks later at NXT Dallas. So, I don't know. It's kind of weird because, like, I want to be excited because it's such a big card, but then at the same time, I'm like, nothing's really going to come of this because just 2 weeks after, or 3 weeks after, I can't do math, is
the card itself actually looks kind of good. You know, like, I think the matches can be really good. I'd like to see what Ambrose can do with Triple H. I would like to see Wyatt Lesnar not be Lesnar's matches that he's had on all the other specials. I don't expect Wyatt to, like, take it to him really good, but I would like to see it be a little more than a squash. You know, because I don't see Wyatt winning. If anything, I could actually see the match kind of ending on like some kind of or a disqualification or something like that. But the match that I'm most excited for is the tag team title match, not because I think Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy are going to get it, nor do I think they should. I think this is a test of seeing how people react to them on the main roster, and I think seeing them with like the Toronto crowd could be really awesome. And I honestly think that they're going to be coming up on the main roster sooner rather than later. As a whole, I mean, I'm not expecting a lot of changes at this show. It would be kind of neat if they decided to throw like a wrench in things and say Ambrose wins the title. I don't think that's what they should do, and I don't think that's what they're going to do. But, I mean, this is definitely an opportunity to, throw everything for a loop for the sake of excitement if they wanted to go that route. Otherwise, I just see it as a show that'll probably have some good wrestling on it.
I think the really interesting thing about this show is the kind of way that it reflects. It certainly seems as though WWE's kind of changed its idea for WrestleMania a couple times over the last couple months. And I know that's something that they don't normally do, so maybe that's just them working us to make us think that there's a lot of irons in the fire. But the fact that the Brock Lesnar match has changed to Bray Wyatt, and they've already announced that it's going to be Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose at WrestleMania, I mean, I think we all know that it was originally going to be Lesnar versus the Wyatt family. And so it seems like they're blowing that off here. The way that they're doing this and the way that they've all of a sudden kind of inserted Triple H versus Dean Ambrose into it, like that match came up literally out of nowhere. Like it doesn't have to be part of the show. Normally on these shows, like Lesnar is the draw. You don't have to insert a gigantic match on top of it. But they have, and they're like pimped it on Raw, and like it's a big deal now. So I guess my question is, like, not thinking that Dean Ambrose is actually going to win, because that would be chaos, but do you think that there's anything actually to the idea that this match being inserted this quickly into this high-profile match could potentially actually mean that something could happen here?
Not a chance. I mean, I would love for it to mean something, because obviously I'm not terribly excited going into this WrestleMania, and I would love if they swerved us and, like, if you had Reigns spear Triple H and then roll out of the ring, Dean hits the dirty deeds, and then for the next couple weeks you set up like, oh, Dean's like, Roman, I could have won it on my own, and then Triple H has a rematch, and Reigns wants in, and then, you have your triple threat, or you could even make it a four-way because Brock's like, the fuck, I was supposed to wrestle Ambrose. It's like, okay, this could get real interesting real fast, but honestly, I don't see it happening. This company doesn't do anything real interesting real fast. So to me, it just feels like this whole event is just going to be like, it happened.
Yeah, I think the whole point of the show is just to kind of make you think that there might be a last-minute swerve. And just to kind of like, I think they're just kind of trying to put over, at least as far as like why they added the title match, because everything else we kind of knew was coming in one way or another. But well, except for the NXT title match also. But I think mostly what they're trying to do is just find more ways to get Ambrose over and like put him over as like a top guy, like someone who is on that upper level, so that when it comes to him facing Lesnar, I mean, obviously the point is it's not supposed to be believable that he could beat him, but it seems like he's not so much out of his league as it might have seemed, like going into Fastlane. I don't think we're going to see any big story changes here. I think if nothing else, you see like Lesnar come out and beat the shit out of Ambrose and just draw more heat towards that feud. Like, I honestly feel like it's nothing more than trying to get heat on Triple H and draw more enthusiasm towards the Ambrose-Lesnar match, which was already quite a bit of enthusiasm for that, but it never hurts to keep pushing it and building it.
I think you're absolutely right, and that is actually such a bummer, because it would be so freaking awesome if they just threw a wrench in the whole thing and just blew it up right now, and so nobody had any idea what the fuck was going on.
That would be sweet. I'm just saying, like, I don't care if it made sense. I don't care if it was the wrong move. I'd be all for it just for the, the shock factor of what the hell is going to happen at WrestleMania.
Right. All right, but there is good news outside of WWE. I mean, Roadblock should be pretty interesting, and it's probably, of these like Lesnar special matches and shows, it's probably the one that I'm by far the most interested in. But if we're going to gauge my interest, and that's like a 6, somewhere around the level of 163 is New Japan has announced that they are bringing back the fucking Super J Cup, the greatest of all tournaments, the tournament that creates gods from juniors. They are bringing back the Super J Cup and have announced that they're going to have wrestlers from CMLL, Dragon Gate, K Dojo, Noah, 01, Ring of Honor, Ryuku Dragon Pro Wrestling, which is probably not the one that anyone's going to get excited about. But, I mean, they're bringing wrestlers in from all over the world. They're bringing in the best of the best. And, boy, it sure seems like a coincidence after that other Cruiserweight tournament was announced.
Boy, does it. And to me, I think very much the battle lines have been drawn. I think, now stick with me. So this tournament draws upon talent from all of Japan, Mexico, the National Wrestling Alliance, basically every kind of independent territory that WWE has yet to tap into, and basically says, like, hey, come have a tryout with us in the Super J Cup. Don't go to the WWE's Global Cruiserweight Tournament. Because obviously WWE is going to tap into the English market, probably some Japan freelancers, whoever's not involved in this, and the American indies. And I think it's sort of New Japan being like, you know what? We can do one of these too, and here's the people we have within our system, within our New Japan ecosystem, because, you know, they supposedly have some stake in Noah and, you know, possibly something to do with this promotion or with that promotion, and obviously, like, the NWA is in their pocket and CMLL is in their pocket. So it's very interesting because I think this is New Japan kind of building up their network of promotions, K Dojo and all these other groups that they work with, and New Japan has sort of always operated like this because this is how it was in the 90s when they did the original Super J Cups. It was like, hey, FMW, Wing, War, send us your guys, we're all going to do this big fucking deal, and everyone comes out of it with a little bit of recognition, you know? And I think it's really interesting that they did this right after WWE announces such a similar tournament. And last week we said, oh, it's like WWE's own Best of the Super Juniors, but honestly, it's much more like WWE's Super J Cup. So I'm just really fascinated by this, and I think this is New Japan saying, like, okay, you want to try and play our game, we'll show you how we do it.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Artie. I can't really add much more there. This definitely, to me, sounds like a direct response to the Global Cruiserweight Series, and, you know, probably a bit of a response to everything else that WWE's been doing, like taking a lot of their big stars. I can say that I'm pretty excited for this because tournaments are always awesome. The Super J Cup, yeah, I've never actually watched an entire Super J Cup tournament, but I've watched, like, you know, highlight matches from different tournaments, and, like, just the idea that it's being brought back, and we could see, I mean, and, you know, some people will probably say that, like, since the Best of the Super Juniors is still there and they've already kind of started getting outside talent for them, that maybe it's not as important, but just the way, I feel like there's going to be a certain hype around this that'll make it feel more important. And they are tapping in to other promotions that they haven't before included. So, I mean, I don't have much to say that Artie didn't say. All I know is that if this is leading to a war between WWE and New Japan, if this is the beginnings of that, I'm pretty stoked to see what the results will be.
I promised on Twitter a little while ago that I was going to write a column about my thoughts on basically New Japan versus WWE is a feud that's been growing since probably around the early 1970s when American wrestling first kind of came over to Japan, and it kind of split with, like, the Karl Gotch style and how they separated from there and are coming back. Like, it's going to be a whole big thing. But the gist right now that I want people to understand is that we're so used to thinking of Japan as being like All Japan, Noah, and New Japan, and American wrestling as being like WWE on top, but then like TNA and Ring of Honor, all that other stuff. we need to stop thinking of it that way. There are only two wrestling promotions on the planet. They are WWE and New Japan. Everything is some kind of extension of one of those two entities, or is unable to be usurped by one of those two entities. There are two promotions that are growing so big that they literally cannot be on different corners of the earth and not butt heads. It's going to result in maybe like the most crazy, huge, and elaborate promotion war that there's ever been. And while WWE seems to actually be acknowledging New Japan and like rating them, WWE has not actually acknowledged another promotion in so long that it's almost bizarre to see them treating something else as like a rival. And New Japan clearly is very, very aware that this is going on because they are getting ready for war.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. So, like, WWE has obviously not acknowledged other promotions, and with this, they will. They're going to be like, oh, you know, so-and-so from Progress, so-and-so from Rev Pro, from, God, I don't know, any other promotions they could possibly work with. Oh, from Evolve, from Dragon Gate, from, oh, wait, Dragon Gate USA doesn't exist anymore, right? Oh. CZW, Chikara, whoever, you know? And it'll really be the first time WWE's like, hey, look at us acknowledging things. Whereas at the same time, they can't obviously acknowledge TNA and Lucha Underground, but New Japan can be like, hey, look who we acknowledge. All these other companies that, again, nobody watches because it's really all about New Japan. But it is just funny to see these companies like, look who we're friends with, look who we're friends with, as they like compete with each other.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like the wrestling Cold War, right? Like it's an arms race. Both of these two entities are just like grabbing up all the talent on Earth because they know that they're gonna need it. Because if New Japan doesn't sign a guy, WWE will, and vice versa. WWE knows that there's finally a promotion that can take talent from them or keep it from them, and that's never been the case before. So we're in like a really weird situation here.
Yeah, and it's crazy when there's like a bidding war for, and I mean this in the nicest way, but like not even just WWE, but there was like a bidding war for Will Ospreay.
Yeah,
You know,
it was TNA in New Japan, wasn't it?
TNA were like, oh, obviously he's going to sign with us, right? And then he's just like, fucks off, goes to New Japan and joins Chaos. And you're like, wait, what? It's great because you're like, I love it that there's an actual bidding war for wrestlers again. And it's giving people options. And you're just like, you know what? How about like the Darewolf, PJ Black? Because like, you know what? Global Force, you're not paying me enough. I'm going to go work for Lucha Underground. And he can do that because there's options again.
Yeah, this is the first time there have been legit options since, I guess, the height of the Monday Night Wars. I mean, this has got to be the best time to be a wrestler and give you the most options since then. And fuck, man, it's going to be so good for us, too, because when the promotions start bidding and the wrestlers become more valuable, they do more with them because they have to. They're paying them more.
Right.
Like, yeah, Will Ospreay's in like the Lance Storm role. We're like, yeah, he's a good talent, but like, does everybody need to be throwing money at him just to get him on their team?
No, and it's just like we just don't want him to be on the other team.
Exactly.
Right.
All right, so before we get off the topic of the Super J Cup, they haven't announced anybody in particular thus far, and we kind of talked about, I mean, we've talked about like dream like wrestlers and these kind of things before, but is there anybody that you specifically want to see be a part of the Super J Cup?
From those companies announced, I mean, obviously from K-Dojo, I'm like all about seeing Taka because Taka has not aged in 25 fucking years.
No, he really hasn't.
I really want to see him competing with the best of the best. From CMLL, it's got to be Dragon Lee, right? Like, it's got to be Dragon Lee. That guy is fucking on fire right now. And for anybody who's unfamiliar with him, he is the little brother of Mystico 2, who is the original Dragon Lee. So he's Dragon Lee number 2. And he's actually probably more popular now than his brother is, who is the second incarnation of basically God. of Mexico. So it's very fascinating. But yeah, Dragon Lee has to be there. From the NWA, I don't think anybody in junior heavyweight wrestling from the NWA matters, so they might just go with like the current NWA junior champion, who is everyone's favorite, Tiger Mask 4.
Oh no,
Don't say
no,
that. No,
dude.
dude, you just killed my boner.
I do that.
Why don't they just bring back a good Tiger Mask, like 2 or 3? Oh wait.
Oh.
Boom.
Yeah, take a second at that one, guys.
Yeah, that Black Tiger was really good. They should bring him in.
Oh.
Or what about that Pegasus Kid?
Oh yeah, he won 2 of these things, man. He should make a comeback.
Oh yeah, you're
wait.
right.
The funny thing is, they've held 5 of these, and only 3 men have won any of them. And so I would say that my want to come back is the man who would be trying to be the first to win 3, Naruyomichi Marufuji. Yes, I say his name on every podcast.
I feel like, yeah, you do find a way to mention him every
Well, they
single
need
show.
to put him in more stuff, okay?
Yeah, like, and everybody knows I'm not a Marufuji guy, but, like, no offense, why the hell did they book him to win the Noah title and then lose it right back, like, 3 weeks later? It was ridiculous.
I can't even talk about Noah. Like, Marufuji needs to be in New Japan so bad that it pains me every day. But I mean, the last time they had one of these, like, Marufuji basically made Prince Devitt a star. Like, he owes his career to that tournament, and to Marufuji in particular for having like an amazing, like, the best match of his career with him. So there you go. And who the fuck? But they could also send Taiji Ishimori from Noah. So I mean, it may be both. I don't know.
And they're going to use a Ring of Honor guy as well. So I really hope it's Kyle O'Reilly, because for anybody who watched this past Best of the Super Juniors, I think Kyle O'Reilly really stood out to everybody because he had some of the best matches in the whole tournament.
I think they could fill like 4 or 5 Ring of Honor guys in here.
Well, I don't know how many people are going to be in this tournament. I think they could go like 16 to 32 guys and bring like 4 guys from each promotion. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, the last one was 16, so I don't know if they're going to repeat that or what. I don't know.
All I know, who I want to see be in this tournament, I want to see El Torito get fired from WWE. Let me see Masquerade Dorada in the Super J Cup.
Hey, man, I don't think El Torito has much longer in WWE, so it could happen.
I mean, where the fuck has he been?
I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
Well, I already came back from death once, so might as well go through with it.
Yeah, I really want to see him wrestle Jushin Liger so he can wrestle someone his own size.
Ouch.
That's funny.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's move on to, speaking of cruiserweights, especially people who hold cruiserweight belts in other companies, wink, wink, I think our boy Trevor Lee did something that people are actually super talking about. And again, like, we're not inserting these Trevor Lee news bits into this. Like, this guy that we randomly plucked out of obscurity really is doing things for real and is making us look super psychic. But Artie, you got all the deets on this, right?
Yeah, so what happened this past week was that in an astounding feat, Trevor Lee wrestled a 1 hour, 45-minute match. That's 105 minutes of continuous wrestling to be crowned. On top of being a former CWF, PWI, Ultra J champion, winner of the Johnny Weaver Memorial Cup, former TNA World Tag Team Champion, current TNA X Division Champion, and former Omega World Heavyweight Champion of North Carolina, Trevor Lee completed a 105-minute epic contest to become CWF World Heavyweight Champion of the world.
Yes!
He did it. Our boy did it.
Fucking astounding. I mean, 105 minutes, dude. I don't think I've ever done anything. I get tired, like physically tired in my soul, if I play Madden for 105 minutes.
I get tired if I play that for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I genuinely don't. I can't think of much I could do for 105 minutes besides sleep.
Say, like, I know that there's probably a joke here about sex, but, like, I don't even want to pretend for 1 minute like any of that sort of shit is happening at my age.
Yeah, I'm not that. I don't have that much stamina. Like, no, I'm not even gonna try and lie.
God, 105 minutes, man. Dude, God, I could cook 105 one-minute eggs in that time. That's insane.
Or you could, like, 58 normal eggs, I guess.
Oh yeah, I guess that math would about work. I mean, that's insane. It's a great gimmick because like it got people talking. But on the other hand, there is not a goddamn chance in hell I'm gonna watch a couple of indie guys go 105 minutes. I don't like watching people go 60 minutes for the most part. And I really don't. I think it takes a special person to go over 35 minutes in a wrestling match. To me, that's a very long match, is 35 minutes, and that's top-level stuff. That's like, I want to see Tanahashi and Okada go 35 to 45 minutes because I know that that's going to be a great story. I want to see CM Punk and Samoa Joe go 35 to 45 minutes because it's going to be a good story. I don't want to see, Travis McDickfuck and Bob McBallsack go longer than 18 and a half minutes because that's going to drag because indie guys don't know jack dick about pacing. So I can only imagine how excruciating long 105 minutes of professional indie wrestling must feel to sit through.
Yeah, see, that's really the interesting thing about this. Is like it created this huge debate online, and that's why it got like not only Trevor Lee's name out there, but CWF's. Is the general idea is, are you in favor of the concept of indie wrestlers going for like 105 minutes? It's not like Trevor Lee invented this. Chris Hero and CM Punk basically made their names doing essentially the same thing back in the day, like wrestling like hour and 30-minute matches all the time. Artie, you're totally against it. I really don't give a fuck either way, but Jules, like, you're more in favor of the idea, right?
Yeah, well, and see, this is the thing. Like, I get it can be taxing whenever like you try to watch a match, say like you're just searching on YouTube for, an old Japan match or something, and you see, the time at like 50-something minutes or something like that. It's a bit intimidating, and you have to sit there and think, do I want to spend all this time watching this one match? But in my opinion, if you can pull it off, fucking go for it. Why the hell not? If you can do it, make it actually interesting throughout the whole thing. And from what I've heard, I plan on actually sitting down and watching this match. And from what I've heard, that like they pretty much have the crowd with them the whole time. Like they never completely lose the crowd. And to me, I don't think it's something that should happen on a regular basis. No, because like I already said, I do think like 30, 35 minute matches is like that's like perfect for a top level main event. But I believe that if you have two guys that can pull it off, and it's the right story, the right scenario, like all the right tools, then you should go for it. As long as it's not like something that happens all the fucking time, and in this case, it did so much wonders for both Trevor Lee and CWF because of all the hype that it got. I think it was a smart move to do on that alone. You want to sit and watch through it as a whole other thing, but you hear people, you get this out that, this random promotion has the longest wrestling match ever, and I don't know if it is actually the longest ever. Didn't like Chris Hero recently wrestle some ridiculously long match.
It was like 3 hours. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, so obviously there are longer matches out there, but this is probably one of the ones where it's like super long and has like a lot going for it. I don't know shit about that Roy Wilkins guy. I don't know a damn thing other than I know the story going into this match. And like I said, if you got the guys who can pull it off, you got a crowd that's willing to eat it up, and the storyline is big enough to warrant it, go right the fuck ahead.
Yeah, and like I get that. I genuinely get that. Like as an independent promotion, you have to do what you can to get attention. Like, so I don't know how tapped into everything people were back in the day, but like one of the things I remember was this legendary match that I read about called the Taipei Death Match, where Axel and Ian Rotten dipped their fists in glue and then put glass all over it, and they beat each other to a bloody mess. And it was this epic match, and everyone talked about it. I read about it. I saw the pictures, and I wanted to watch this match for so many years. Because back then, and for anyone who remembers the days of renting tapes, ECW tapes weren't easy to come by. And I remember when I finally watched it in the early days of YouTube when people would just upload everything, I was so let down. Two fat guys just punch each other for 12 and a half minutes. But it didn't matter because the lore of the match had gotten me. And I think that for a lot of fans who, quite honestly, don't know much about wrestling outside of the conventional things, like you know of WWE and you've heard of TNA and you maybe heard of Lucha Underground or whatever, when you hear them, you're like, yeah, these two guys had a 105-minute match, and it's crazy. There was run-ins, and these guys jumped in, and everybody, it turned into a whole war. It's 105 minutes, and you're like, wow, I gotta watch that. What the fuck is CWF? Because I'm gonna check it out, you know? And it is a cool little thing, but I just think it's the problem. It's one of the most constant issues I see with independent promotions where you can draw them in for one thing, but what the fuck else is on that card that's going to keep people watching, you know? Right. Like, the quality isn't going to match the hype, and I don't know. No, I just think it's a cute little gimmick, but it won't do much besides put the letters CWF into the wrestling media for a week or so.
Right, and that is a good point, and it's entirely possible that that's all they really want, and that they're perfectly happy with that, and if that's the case, then fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it got them in the news for a minute. It might make some people Google CWF who wouldn't have otherwise. Maybe they attract a couple new fans. Fantastic. Trevor Lee gets his name out there for something other than being someone who works for TNA, which is always good, because I'm sure he'd like to scrub that off his resume as quickly as possible once he's done with him. And I mean, like, it doesn't hurt anybody. It's one of those stories where it's just like, wow, somebody wrestled for that long. Why? And then it starts a fight. But at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter how long the match was. Nobody is actually going to watch this. Like, there are some people who are going to, but like realistically, of the three of us, who is actually going to sit down and watch this match? I'm not.
Just me.
I will skim it for sure.
Yeah.
I'm mostly just because I want to see our boy T. Lee do it big.
Is this a bad time? Like, should we keep kayfabe here, or would now be a good time to admit that I don't really like Trevor Lee in the ring?
Blasphemer!
I'm sorry. It's all flips and awkward limbs, and his finish is so bad.
And he's just so ugly. Oh, good lord.
His finish is a jumping small package. That's what it is. Like, what the fuck is that?
I just don't even know. I can't even be with you guys anymore. This is a travesty.
You know what the funny thing is about Trevor Lee? He's not that special, but he just keeps getting signed to, like, do all these things. And I'm going to just 100% say it has to do with his Hardys Association. Like, his dad wrestled in the Hardys Trampoline Federation back in the day, so they feel indebted to him.
Oh, seriously? That's how he got in?
Yeah, his dad was one of the original Omega guys.
Oh.
So the Hardys have a loyalty to him, and if for anybody who hasn't noticed, the Hardy Boys run TNA now. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And that's why Trevor Lee's there. And I feel like that's all.
Wow. I mean, that actually makes so much sense.
It does. But, I mean, I think you know that the real reason that Trevor Lee is getting all this exposure is because Cewsh Reviews and the Cewshcast was so kind as to honor and mention his name on here. And now look where he's at.
Oh, without a doubt. I think that's very fair to say.
Oh, for sure. I think Trevor Lee needs to just go ahead and start following us on Twitter.
Yeah, man, come on. Pay it forward, dick.
Come on, T. Lee 910, follow us, you bastard.
We may have more followers than him. All right, moving on. All right, there's some other stuff that's been going on in independent wrestling lately, especially with Lucha Underground. It looks like they just signed a new contract that's pretty fucking sweet. So, industry insider Artie, what you got for us there?
So, as we all know, we've been looking for some Lucha Underground distribution. I think we've all wanted some DVDs or some kind of way to order Lucha Underground to, A, watch it legally, because I feel like a scumbag watching their product illegally because of the sheer joy Lucha Underground brings me. I don't like the fact that I have to steal to watch it. I always like paying for product that's good. Wrestling companies, take note. When it's good, we will give you money, you know? But secondly, because we all want to give our money to Lucha Underground in some way to help finance further seasons. So they finally came out with a pretty interesting distribution method, which is iTunes. So you can buy Season 1 for $44.99, which, I mean, $45 for one full season and essentially a pay-per-view. I mean, that's a hell of a deal.
That's like what, like 30 episodes or something like that? Maybe not that many, but...
Season 1 was 40 episodes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fucking deal.
That's literally less than $2 an episode. That's the cost of one Ring of Honor pay-per-view. No lie. Ring of Honor's pay-per-view last week was $45 for HD.
Jeez.
That's the cost of what would be a WWE pay-per-view standard definition if you don't have the network. That's nothing, dude. That's a drop in the bucket for a full season of professional wrestling. Season 2 is $39.99 because it's going to be less episodes. But that's nothing. And because it's on iTunes, you pre-buy the whole season, and every week the new episode will be put into iTunes for you. So you have a fully legal, paid way of watching Lucha Underground. So you're supporting the show. And if enough of us buy it, I've already bought Seasons 1 and 2 on iTunes, guess what? It gives them the money needed to finance a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever season. And that's what we need to do. I think that's our responsibility as fans. You want to see good stuff being made, you have to be willing to spend money. That's the way it works in any industry. And for now, Lucha Underground has no touring. They don't have a lot of merchandise. If this is the main way to help finance further seasons, because as we know, Seasons 2 and 3 are already paid for, then that's what needs to be done so that we get a 4, 5, 6, 7, and we continue, as we were just saying, creating more places for people to work. Because if Lucha Underground is financially viable, well, then guys can choose that as the extra place to go besides TNA or Ring of Honor or New Japan or CWF or anyone else.
No, that's actually great because, I mean, like, you were doing, like, the comparisons of, like, how much you pay for everything else. Like, if you want to follow PWG or Chikara, their DVDs are a minimum of $10 each, you know, and like especially like with Chikara, they have so many damn shows in a year. Like last year, they had like 20, 30 something shows.
Oh God, yeah.
And I remember trying to like when because I fell behind on following it, and like when it came to trying to catch up on it, it's like $10 per DVD. There's no real like bundle deal or anything like that. Like that's a lot of money to be spending on wrestling, and I would love to give all that money to Chikara, but it's a lot. Whereas opposed with Lucha Underground, Lucha Ground would be fun. With Lucha Underground, you only pay like $40 for 40 hours worth of content, as opposed you're basically paying, no more than like $1 for an hour of content, as opposed to PWG or Chikara, where you're paying $10 for 3 hours of content, or more or less at a time. So, unless you were just completely disconnected from the internet, which in that case you probably don't even know what Lucha Underground is, there's no reason not for you to support it as soon as you get money to do so.
It's so cool, and the idea, I think the one thing that nobody's really been able to tap into in the wrestling industry, it's outside of maybe WWE with the network, is like binge watching is the shit, man. That's what I do most of my time when I'm not watching wrestling. I'm on Netflix and I watch like a season at a time, like 6 episodes in a sitting, and then I move on with my day. And like I just always have a show or something that I'm like binge watching at any given time. Wrestling doesn't really give you that option. Like, so much of it is you have to have watched it live, or you missed it, or you got to pay $10 a DVD, or you got to illegally download it and go through all this shit. Like, it's not easy to watch wrestling shows. It never has been. So the easier that they make it, like, I have not watched probably an episode of Lucha Underground since season 1, honestly, and probably early on in season 1. But the idea that I can just get it all in one lump and like it'll keep updating throughout this season as it goes on, like I'm way more likely to watch it now.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to the nature of television. Binge watching is the thing. Like, I don't know if either of you have watched Fuller House yet. I haven't, but I know I have that option, and I'm a big fan of Full House because who doesn't love a little bit of Full House? But it's like that came back through Netflix. And I will sit down and watch it because I can binge watch it. Whereas, like, Girl Meets World is on weekly. I never even know when it's on. I'm not going to watch it.
Right. And if it doesn't interest you enough, are you going to want to, like, if one episode doesn't interest you enough, are you going to be committed the next week? You know?
Exactly.
Whereas with something you can binge watch, you can watch one episode and be like, all right, let me give it one more episode and give it a shot. You know? And whereas if you give it a week, there's plenty of time for you to decide, you know what, it's just not worth it for me.
And I mean, honestly, like I have like a rotation of shows that like as soon as I'm done binging one show, I'll be like, oh, let me try out House of Cards. Let me watch all of Archer. Let me like, there's just so many shows to watch, and you just kind of skip from one show to the next to catch all the way up on. Lucha Underground could easily be in that rotation, and now it probably will be.
Yeah, and in all honesty, with more and more people cutting cable, it's actually very smart to move into other platforms where it can be binge watched. And I hope Lucha Underground eventually moves onto Netflix or Hulu or something like that. Because, you know, I'm cutting cable soon because I realize how much it costs per year that I get almost nothing out of it. I barely watch cable television. I mostly watch Netflix or, you know, I watch stuff that's on network TV that you can get for free over the air. So I don't really watch much cable because I don't even watch Raw anymore. I watch it on Mondays, you know, and I fast forward the whole thing. I mean, I watch on Tuesdays and I fast forward the whole thing. So it's interesting that Lucha Underground is the first company to really move into that model. And like, I know a lot of companies offer streaming services now. ICW, Progress, Chikara. Who else has?
Stardom now.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. So all these companies have these streaming services, but this one is not a streaming service. It's through iTunes, which I think pretty much everyone has at this point. So I think that's very cool, and it's something that I think will help to get people like watching it, buying it, and contributing money to the brand.
Absolutely. And here's hoping, because Lucha Underground's a pretty nifty thing. Like I said, I don't watch a ton of it, but man, like it's something that I really am happy exists in the wrestling landscape, and may it continue to grow and succeed, and maybe one day usurp WWE in its own weird ass way.
Amen.
For sure.
All right, so now is probably the time of the show where we should move on to the question segment. As we have probably told you guys before, it's no longer 3 and enough man, I need 5 questions. 5 questions proved to be too much for our delicate constitution. So now we have changed the format, and it is now 5 is too much man, we need 3 questions. All right, cats and kittens, this is my segment of the show and your segment of the show. This is where you've sent in your questions via Twitter, Facebook, Raja.com, Cewshcast.com, Cewshcast@gmail.com. Did I already say Twitter? Yeah, I probably did. Tumblr, what's that hot new site that's burning up the charts, Artie?
Yes.
Yes, there you go. It's yes.com. You should probably go on there. It may be Daniel Bryan related. Who knows? Anyway, you've sent in your questions through all those sources, and we're going to answer them for you here right now. And as last week, I was not on that show and I have not heard it yet, so I'm really suspicious of what went on there. But we've been doing a couple of like theme-related ones here and there. of like I give you guys a topic to ask questions about, and you guys just kind of run with it. And last week's was trees for some.
Yeah, it was all trees.
Yeah, I don't know why the hell it was trees, but it was trees. And this time it was bars. Any kind of bars that could be. I suggested arm bars, dive bars, whatever kind of bars. And this week we have 3 questions about bars. Actually, you know what?
Fantastic.
Yeah, one of these questions sucks. 2 questions about bars and then a real question.
Ew, real questions. Ew.
Okay, but I got to do the bars questions first. So first of all, @Katsuki Artist has the incredibly significant question that I'm sure has been plaguing all of our minds since, time immemorial. What are your thoughts on Crowbar? And I will ask, where do you think he is now?
Crowbar? Like WCW Crowbar?
WCW Crowbar.
God, where do my thoughts begin on Crowbar is truly the question. Oh, I'm just overtaken with emotions when Crowbar comes up. Crowbar was probably my 28th favorite Cruiserweight champion.
Were there 28 Cruiserweight champions?
Whenever you saw pictures of him, did you assume he was like way bigger than he was?
Okay, yeah, I don't think he at all was at the Cruiserweight limit. But I loved his group with Daphne and David Flair. But, like,
the most random staple of all time.
I mean, that's the funny thing is, because, like, it was, but it wasn't, because it was the 90s and everyone was in those random-ass stables. But actually, my favorite thing about Crowbar that a lot of people don't know, so, like, I was re-watching all of Raw over the last, like, year, and a lot of people don't know this, and this is why. I always thought Crowbar was huge, but then I realized he was Cruiserweight champion, because he used to work in WWF a lot when they were starting the light heavyweight division. And he always wore really bright tights with kick pads, which was rare because not a lot of people wore kick pads back in the day. And he went by the name Devin Storm.
Devin Storm.
Devin
you ruined
Storm.
my joke, you bastard.
Why?
Well, my answer to the question was, I have no clue who this Crowbar guy is, but I heard of this Devin Storm cat. That's pretty sweet.
Well, sorry, I stole your thoughts, buddy.
You motherfucker.
But yeah, man. So, oh God, what do I think he's doing now? I honestly don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised to find out he's like doing better than all of us. Like he's like a neurosurgeon or something, you know? Who knows? Yeah, so I'm gonna go with that. He's a neurosurgeon.
Well, the band Crowbar is pretty sweet.
They are, yeah.
The object Crowbar's very handy.
The wrestler Crowbar, yeah, I remember him having, a light feud with Sabu over stealing his stuff, so that was kind of cool. I've never really been much a fan of Crowbar. Like, he's always just been a blip on the radar to me. But Devin Storm, yeah, that's a cat right there.
My answer to this question, as with anyone who was a part of the World Wrestling Alliance whose shows I had to review, I hope he's burning in everlasting torment forever.
By the way, I was close. He's a physical therapist.
Hey, he's bringing wellness to people.
I feel like that's vastly different than a neurosurgeon.
Dude, it's still a fucking doctor.
Is
Doctor, quote
it?
unquote. Doctor.
No, I'm not kidding you. My buddy is a physical therapist, and I hate how much money he makes because fuck him.
All right, that is a pretty good point, actually. Physical therapist makes a
hear me,
fucking bank.
Sully? Go fuck yourself.
Oh man. When you
I hope
imagine
he doesn't
wrestlers
do it.
as having day jobs, do you imagine them like as their wrestler selves? Like he's like super greased up with his goth makeup on?
Hell yeah. When I think of Spike Dudley, what is he? He's like an accountant now?
Yeah.
Financial advisor.
That's right, yeah. No, I just imagine him, glasses, completely messy, disheveled hair. I know he had short hair before, but I still like to imagine him as LSD.
Oh, yeah. Like, I want him in the camo pants and the tie-dye shirt.
His weird askew glasses.
Just like every single Dudley gimmick that he's ever been a part of, all meshed into one.
100%.
That's beautiful. All right, let's move on to question number 2, and this one may actually be pretty divisive, to be perfectly honest with you, because there are correct answers and very, very much not correct answers. And we will find out who stands where now, because our friend Defrost asked us, what is your favorite candy bar?
Ooh. Okay, my favorite candy bar is Snickers. I fucking love Snickers. I'm a big Peanuts guy. I like Snickers because they are one of the only candy bars that actually fills you up after you eat it.
I think that's a perfectly fine answer. I have no complaints about Snickers. They're very good. Probably the best fun-size candy bar, Snickers.
Oh, actually, yeah, probably the best because they have a good texture to them.
Yeah, you get the most bang for your buck with those.
Well, I'm actually like super picky when it comes to flavors and shit like that, and nuts and all that kind of thing. So I actually am pretty basic, and I like Hershey, just regular Hershey chocolate bars. Nothing fancy, just going classic. But I do have a very soft spot in my heart for Crunch.
I gotta say, I've seen a lot of people eating Hershey's bars in war footage from 1942. They have like stuff in candy bars now, Julius.
I can only imagine how Julius must feel about Take 5 bars.
Oh, that was what I was gonna say. That's my shit.
Dude, I love Take 5s. They're so good.
Dude, I love Take 5s. I would buy stock in Take 5 if it weren't already like Hershey's in general. But if it was just the thing by itself.
Yeah, Take 5s are awesome. Back when I used to manage the gas station, I would get free candy samples. I specifically told the Hershey lady, like, my favorite thing is Take 5 from your company, and she would bring me so many Take 5s.
That is amazing. I got to tell you, like, this is a completely, like, off-key thing here, but, like, Die Hard was my favorite movie as a kid, and my favorite moment in Die Hard is the part where the terrorist is just randomly eating candy bars while he's waiting to shoot all the cops. You guys know what I'm talking about? Where he's just like reaching on them, like pulling out a Crunch bar, pulling out a Butterfinger.
Oh, hey! Rest in peace, Alan Rickman. By the way.
Oh yeah, rest in peace, Alan Rickman. Let's lift a candy bar to the great actor. All right, but let's move on to question number 3, which, like I said, has nothing to do with bars whatsoever. This one is from Sesori, who wants to know, and this is sort of a larger topic, because we haven't really touched on the whole Shane McMahon thing. I think we're going to as we get closer to WrestleMania, and we have more of an idea of where exactly this whole thing is going with him. But he wants to know, we haven't done fantasy booking in a while, if Shane gained control of WWE in storyline, how would you book his reign?
How would I book what?
His reign. Like, how would you personify, like, Raw under Shane McMahon?
Okay. Now hear me out, because I was always one of the biggest haters of the brand split. I think I fucking complained about the brand split from 2003 on. If Shane McMahon was put back in control of Raw, I would split the brands again and have SmackDown be run by Triple H or Stephanie or someone entirely different, William Regal, whoever. And the reason is this. SmackDown, when it was its own brand, gave us individual talents kind of on their own individual storylines. Like right now, kind of the big star down there has been AJ Styles. Sometimes, some weeks it's Kevin Owens. Back during the split, we saw, and I know Jules is right there with me, the rise of Dolph Ziggler as a big fucking deal. The rise of Cody Rhodes, the Drew McIntyre run. You had Edge reigning as champion for like 4 years, just making that show relevant. You had Undertaker on top. Kurt Angle's run was great. You had the Mark Henry Hall of Pain. You had so much that having that second brand created in terms of opportunity for guys that I would love to see. Now, one of the big complaints I always had during the brand split was the split pay-per-views. But now that we have the WWE Network, split pay-per-views aren't as big of a deal if you just do them as network specials, right? So you have your let's say, Raw pay-per-view or Super Show pay-per-views every month, every 6 weeks, and then you have brand-exclusive specials in between. And whenever there isn't a brand-exclusive special, is an NXT special. So it creates a little more opportunity, because even in the 3 hours they have for Raw and the 2 hours for SmackDown, they just don't utilize the 5 hours to the fullest. And I honestly wouldn't mind seeing the brand split anymore, because it's not like when the last brand split occurred, where you had a top-heavy roster. Right now you have a top-to-bottom talented roster, and I think the roster's only going to get stronger as you have more NXT call-ups, and we don't need guys like Kevin Owens and AJ Styles and Neville and Sami Zayn being stuck so low on the undercard. I would love if you had a split and kind of use the secondary brand to build these guys to their peak before bringing them up to Raw or whatever.
Yeah, I think if they did end up doing it and stuck to the plan like that, I think you can make some entertaining programming. Me personally, I don't want to see a brand split, and me and Artie touched upon this a little bit last week. We more touched upon the segment itself rather than the follow-up of what's going to happen if Shane McMahon, gets control of Raw, as I was saying. But which I think, since he specifically worded it as control of WWE, I think that's what control of Raw should essentially mean. I would like it to be he gets the control, we don't get any more authority, the authority's done, we get a month or two of Shane being heavily present and making it seem like he's making big changes to the WWE. Whether those are actual changes going on behind the stages or behind the scenes or not is a whole other thing. But you just have him give it that feeling so it feels like there's a change moving forward. And then, like me and Artie kind of referred to last week, I'd like him to just, after that, just kind of relegate to being a William Regal style GM, or owner, I guess, where he only shows up when the shit's needed, when there's a dispute over a finish, or someone's beating someone up and going way too far, that's when Shane McMahon should get involved. I'd like him to be a kind of, I'm here when you need me, I'm here when you need a big authority figure, but I'm not going to be here every single week getting in the face of wrestlers or being the antagonist to the heels or even the baby faces or anything like that. He's just there to do his job when someone needs to come in and lay down the law.
I like that idea, though. I think honestly, I like Artie's idea even more. I was one of the people who was calling for the brand split to be ended too towards the end, but that was because the form that we had it in was such a broken idea, and they had abandoned it so long ago that we needed them to reform the roster just to make it healthy again. And now it kind of is, and there's so much talent, but there's a bottleneck, so I think it makes sense to do this. But I think there's one small twist that I would like to put on it, and that's that I don't want Shane McMahon to be in charge of Raw. I think if you're going to do this with Shane McMahon, and you're going to do the brand split and have them button heads, you've got to make Shane's the underdog one, because that's the one that's going to make people interested. People will tune in to see the new direction of SmackDown with Shane in charge. They will not tune in to see the new direction of SmackDown with Stephanie in charge. You know what I mean? They already know what that show is.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make it seem like SmackDown's the underdog, but Shane's going to turn that shit around and use it as a weapon to fight his family. That's interesting. That's why we've all hung on to the idea of what was Shane McMahon's WCW going to be. You know what I mean? It's an interesting idea that's never been visited. You can't just put Shane in charge of Raw and relegate the others to SmackDown, because deep in your heart, they're just going to be back. You know what I mean? It's temporary. You do it the other way, and you're setting up for a genuine thing that you can cash in on the next WrestleMania. And that's what I want to see.
Good shit. I like that answer.
Yeah, no, that's definitely solid. And I think... So here's my greatest fear with anything. Going into Survivor Series this year, the title tournament, I said there's 50 paths that WWE could possibly take. 49 of them are great, one is shit. They're going to go down the one shit road. And I think that with this upcoming Shane storyline, the three of us can book 50 altogether ideas. We're going to pick one that's just god-awful, like Shane McMahon sets himself on fire while Stephanie stands on her head, Triple H dances around in a monkey costume, and they call it the Aristocrats. And that's the path that they take.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I always just have this fear that no matter how well the fans, and that's us, the fans, book this to go, they will always pick the one wrong way.
Yeah. That tends to be the case. Also, you get so many props for that Aristocrats reference.
Oh, for sure. And also, like, that's not the worst case scenario because please give us that. Holy shit. Triple H dancing in a monkey suit is a 5-star match.
As long as he's wrestling a broom while he does it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. All right. That brings us to an end of our question segment, though I will ask a bonus question. My lovely wife, Golden Lily on Twitter, has asked us to answer a question. I'm going to guess that musical theater is not either of your forte. Would that be fair to say?
Very fair to say.
Generally not, no.
Okay, but the show Hamilton is a craze that has taken America by storm. It was just on the Grammys. It's a big deal. So she wants to know, which wrestler should use an Alexander Hamilton gimmick, and who should be his tag team partner turned frenemy, Aaron Burr?
I don't even know what this means. Who's Alexander Hamilton?
Oh my God!
What?
See, I feel like I should know that. Is he on the money?
Yes, he's on the $10 bill. You fucking
Yeah, see,
illiterate jackass.
Okay, so what the hell is Hamilton?
I guess
Hamilton. It's a hip hop musical on Broadway. It's like the biggest musical in like 50 years.
Okay, well, I mean, if it's hip hop, then I guess Hamilton should be played by R-Truth.
Oh
And
dear.
his frenemy, of course, should be Goldust. So.
All right, wait.
I'd book the Golden Truth on Hamilton, I guess.
Do you legit not know anything about Alexander Hamilton?
Yeah, he's on the $10 bill, like we just established.
Oh my God.
What was he, like the 12th president of the United States or something?
No! He founded the Treasury and the fucking New York Times, and he was shot and killed in a duel by Aaron Burr. I mean, it was fucking
he's just
nuts.
the worst of the worst is what you're telling me.
Oh my God. God damn it.
Sounds awful. Good Lord. Okay, I would book as Alexander Hamilton. I would book Vince McMahon because I would make his frenemy Donald Trump, and that's how I would play it out.
All right, yes. I can live with that, yeah.
Okay, see, I feel better now because when she was making these tweets about Hamilton, I had no clue what the fuck she was talking about. I have not heard of the show or anything. And now that I've heard you say Alexander Hamilton, I'm like, okay. And then you say it's a musical about it. Like, oh, okay, I kind of get it now. I may not know a damn thing about the show, but I get it.
Right.
As for an answer to your question, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. I don't care who's
That's your answer to every fucking question, Julius.
That's not even true. I've probably answered that once.
No, you're lying, because I asked you earlier, Julius, how are you? And you said Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I don't know what that means.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
I guess you could do Triple H and Shawn Michaels. That'd work too, right?
Yeah, I guess Triple H should have to be the one who shoots the other one in the face. That's definitely
of course.
What that is. All right. Let's pull it all together. We got a serious topic to cover before we get out of here. Heading in place of homework this week, let's kind of give just some quick thoughts. Hayabusa, if you haven't heard, the famous Japanese junior heavyweight wrestler, pioneer of so many styles. I mean, everybody's ripped him off to some extent or the other. The current generation of juniors owes him a debt of gratitude. I guess he passed this week, so do you guys have any thoughts or memories about Hayabusa?
Yeah, man, one of my biggest memories of Hayabusa, and again, this goes back to that thing I was saying before about renting tapes and tape trading. I think everyone who was in the game back in the day heard of the legend of Hayabusa, and unlike the Taipei deathmatch I mentioned before, when you watched Hayabusa, it was not disappointing. He lived up to the hype. He was absolutely careless, reckless, and sloppy in the ring, but he brought so much heart and vigor to everything he did that he could have a match with a guy like Mike Awesome, who was twice his size, and you believed it when he beat him because Hayabusa would just throw caution to the wind. I mean, you can still, if you want to talk about, like you just said, ripping him off and seeing his influence in modern wrestling, Seth Rollins' Phoenix Splash comes from Hayabusa, the man they called the Phoenix. That was his move. To me personally, I'm a big junior heavyweight guy. I admire so much about Hayabusa. He's another one of those guys who was told he was never going to make it. And not only did he make it and make a name for himself, he carried FMW on his back for almost 10 years. And after he was paralyzed, the company went under, man. His rivalry with Mr. Ganosuke, who, I mean, this was like two real-life friends, went to train in the dojo, and then they built FMW together. And shortly after Hayabusa was paralyzed, Ganosuke retired, and the company just couldn't survive anymore. I would look up any of their matches. They're so good because there's just so much real-life tension between them. And it's just one of those things where two guys know each other so well. The matches are just great. The story's great. For a personal Hayabusa match, I would recommend. I'm going to go with, since we've been talking so much about the Super J-Cup, I'm going to go with his Super J-Cup 94 match against Jushin Liger. This was a young Hayabusa. He was like, God, he probably weighed 100 pounds soaking wet, and he just went to war with Liger for like 12 minutes. And after the match, Liger holds his hand up because he's like, this fucking kid is the future of junior heavyweight wrestling. And I think it's such a beautiful moment, and I think we need to celebrate that. And fun fact, for anyone who played any of the WCW video games, because I think we all have some strange love for them, there's a character in the games called Hannibal, and he is very much a straight ripoff of Hayabusa. So if you have one of those old games, go fire it up and go look for Hannibal.
I'm not horribly familiar with Hayabusa's work, as like I haven't seen a lot of his matches, but I'm well aware of his legacy. And I remember the first time that I ever saw him was I used to have an old FMW DVD, and I know the main event of the show was Megumi Kudo versus Shark Tsuchiya. It might have been, I want to say it was Megumi Kudo's retirement match, which was like a no ropes, barbed wire, 200-volt explosives on the side of the ring, some shit like that. Like, I can't even tell you everything that was in it. But I just remember halfway through the show was a Hayabusa match. And I don't remember who he wrestled. I don't remember a lot about the match, other than the fact that I thought this dude just looked so fucking cool, and I immediately liked him. And I remember really liking the match. It's been so long since I've seen it. I don't even have that DVD anymore. I couldn't tell you what show it was or anything, but the dude just had like a look and a vibe about him that made you want to know more. And you can ask almost, so many people have said that, like, in praise of him after his death, and I'm glad to see that he got to finish his goal of being able to walk inside a ring again before he passed. So he got to go out. I assume he got to go out on a happy note. So, rest in peace, and hopefully you're doing crazy high spots in the sky.
Absolutely, crazy high spots in the sky. And speaking of high spots, let's leave you on one, as always, as we sign off for the night by telling you to don't do crack, and remember to always eat your dildos and your burgers.